authors, I'm Joanne Morrell, children's and young adult fiction writer and author of short non-fiction for authors. Thanks for joining me for the Hybrid Author podcast, sharing interviews from industry professionals to help you forge a career as a hybrid author, both independently and traditionally publishing your books. You can get the show notes for each episode and sign up for your free author pass over at the Hybrid Author website to discover your writing process, get tips on how to publish productively, and get comfortable promoting your books at www.hybridauthor.com.au. Let's crack on with the episode. Hello, authors! I hope you're all keeping well in whatever part of the world you reside and listen to the podcast in. Today's interview is with Tiffany Noelle Chacone, author of young adult sweet romance novel Jump. And we're chatting facing your fears after trauma, rejection, self-doubt and imposter syndrome through the writing process and publishing. And we also touch on facing your fears in Tiffany's book. So in my author adventure this week, Sunday, I met with a bunch of lovely writer friends and had a farewell kind of brunch thing, and it was really nice to see everybody. And it touches upon the episode from last week, 5 things that an authorship career brings other than money, and writing family is definitely one of them. I felt so special and to have forged these friendships with these women, and I look forward to continuing that on the road and when I get back. So yeah, and also gave some copies of my book and signed them, which was lovely. That was quite a surreal feeling. I'd felt a bit, to sign a book, but I actually really enjoyed it and I thought it was quite nice. I've never done that before. So afterwards I took a trip to the State Library in Perth, Western Australia, and deposited 2 copies of my non-fiction books. So 2 copies of Freelance Writing, Quick Tips for Fast Success, and 2 copies of Author Fears and How to Overcome Them. Went into the State Library. Now this is a legal deposit. It is legally a legal requirement of publishers within Western Australia to do this. Because the State Library is an archives of obviously work that's out there. It's a database. It's for anything, publications, music. There was a big long list. I think I shared on last week's episode actually. So yeah, it was fairly easy and simple. Went in, filled out a form, put the books in. So yeah, if you are a librarian and you're listening out there and you're interested in having my books for your collection, I'd be eternally grateful. Can obviously, and you purchase from the State Library, you can now do so. If you are a listener and you would like to read my books via your local library, then please go and ask your librarian if for these books, and maybe they'll be able to get them in stock. That would be wonderful. In caravan packing adventure news, this week has probably been our most trying one. We're in the eye of the selling, packing, storing, leaving phase, and it's been particularly difficult. So definitely no writing was scheduled this week. I had some back-to-back podcast interviews yesterday, which was great, but also quite hard as well in amongst everything. Yeah, I heard that the things that are most stressful in life, there was a list, and it was, the death of a partner or the death of your parents, and then underneath that was moving house. So I've never really moved house like this before. We've obviously accumulated a lot of stuff, and it's just hard, and amongst obviously we're not moving into another place. It's like we're putting it in storage and then we've got to pack the caravan, and there's a lot of time restraints, and we've hit a couple of issues with looking at powering our caravan. So when we're not at a caravan park or we're off grid, our caravan will be self-sufficient, but it's very expensive to sort of do stuff like this, and we were weighing up, how often will we be actually doing that, and we just didn't think it was worth it. So we originally had some bookings and planned to go up north in Western Australia and then across, because that's really the best time to do it. But at the top of Australia, Fitzroy Crossing, you've got to travel across to get to the Northern Territory, was flooded, and we were hoping by the time we got up there in June that it would be cleared, but we just heard the other day it's re-flooded again. And we just don't know how long it's going to be for that to be fixed. And then if that's the case, then we would have to come straight down the middle of Australia, which I think is like pretty much just desert and dirt road, not very great, and then straight across into like the eastern coast, Queensland and stuff like that. So that would be really expensive and probably not so great. Our first trip booking, which we leave next Saturday, the 15th of April, is to head down to down south of Australia, Busselton, and then so we're looking at sort of starting the trip that way and just going forward from there and heading straight across the eastern coast and up the way, which is not the way we wanted to go because of weather and stuff like that. There's lots of flooding over there as well. So I was like, are we going straight into that? You know, who knows? And yeah, it's going to be quite hard to plan a lot of stuff. So, but it's exciting. It is exciting.
Thorn Creative, where beautiful websites for authors are brought to life. No matter what stage you're at with your writing, your stories deserve a dedicated space to shine. Whether you're just starting out or have a bookshelf full of bestsellers, your website is the hub of your author business, binding everything you and your books offer together. Thorn Creative can nurture all aspects of redesigning your old site or start afresh from the initial design. They can provide ongoing hosting and maintenance to marketing your books online, saving you time, money, and stress trying to wrangle your site yourself. An author website built by Thorn Creative can easily direct readers to your favorite retailers, your publisher, or simply set you up to sell to them direct. The options are endless. Thorn Creative have worked with many authors across all genres and know what goes into good, functional working author websites to sell books. Head on over to thorncreative.com.au/websites for authors to read author and publisher testimonials and to see what they offer and some of the sites they've created. Tiffany Noelle Chacone has been riding horses since before she could walk. She's competed in a variety of disciplines from barrel racing to showing Arabians to dressage and show jumping. Tiffany has a Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing from the University of Tampa, Florida, where she lives with her husband and middle school sweetheart Tyler and two crazy wild boys. Tiffany blogs about motherhood, faith, and chronic pain over at Mummy of Mayhem. Welcome to the Hybrid Author Podcast, Tiffany.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you and very excited to chat. So what an absolute super bio you have. Your degree obviously sets you up as a writer, but can you tell us, how did you come to join the book industry as an author?
Sure. I've always loved the written word, obviously, and have been an avid reader my whole life. But I originally started writing during a time in my life, a difficult time in my life in my early 20s, where I basically went from being a very healthy, active person to slowly being overcome by an, at the time, unknown illness. And I went from, being in school, I was working at a barn, teaching riding lessons at the time, riding horses regularly, doing, having an active college lifestyle to, slowly being able to barely walk, having just excruciating, debilitating pain in all of my joint. And I quit my job. I stopped school. It was like my life just ground to a halt. And I couldn't do much at the time. But I did a lot of reading and I started writing. And I started writing this story that I had in my mind for a while. And I thought, I have one story in me. I'll get that out of me and be done with it. And I did not have just one story in me. I just kept writing, stories would pop into my mind. And I just realized how much I loved writing. And it obviously gave me an outlet too during a really difficult time in my life where I couldn't do much, but I could write. And so I did that. And eventually that led me to wanting to get my master's degree. I, went to the University of Tampa, got my master's there, and, really dove headfirst into the writing world and just fell in love with it. I'm so grateful that I found writing.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. Like, obviously horrible, you being so active in like the horsey community and then having to deal with what you went through. But it sounds like the silver lining was that you found something new and a whole love for something else. I often wonder, I've seen a comment on Twitter, I think it was today, someone had put a question up saying, if you couldn't be a writer, what would you be? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I thought, oh my gosh, I'll have to think of
Right.
that. So it's if one thing's gone, then it's amazing that you found something else. So that's great. Well, today's topic is facing your fears, and we're going to talk about your new novel, Jump, which is a sweet new adult romance and first in series. So, it's sort of deals with facing your fears. Can you tell us about the book and, what kind of fears your protagonist faces and ultimately overcomes?
Yeah. So my main character is Mila, and she's a college senior, getting ready to graduate, and, she's applying to grad schools and trying to, move on with her life. But she watched her sister go through a tragic accident while riding on course at a horse show, and her sister was paralyzed. And so Mila is really dealing with the repercussions of watching that accident happen. She's a horseback rider, and so she's trying to process that through the filter of, I am still riding, and how do I keep riding when I've watched this terrible thing happen to my sister? And she really gets kind of a form of PTSD from watching this accident happen, and keeps replaying in her mind when she's riding. And she inherits from her sister's Grand Prix horse, which Grand Prix is like the top level of show jumping that you can get. It's basically what you would watch in the Olympics. That's
Wow.
Grand Prix show jumping. And so she inherits this incredible horse from her sister, who obviously can't use him anymore. And she's too scared to compete with him. Even though she could compete at the highest level that there is in show jumping, she's just paralyzed by this fear. And this is a very real experience in the horse world, in the show jumping world. People, if you ride a horse, you're going to fall off. It's a reality of riding horses. And when you're competing at that high level, it's also a reality that people get injured. Obviously a lot of people know about Christopher Reeves,
Yes.
Superman, who was paralyzed from a horseback riding accident, but that happened. And so Mila has to basically deal with these fears, and not just fear of, falling off a horse or, having some kind of accident, but it's kind of like the fear permeates all aspects of her life. She's afraid to apply to grad school. She's afraid to fall in love. She's just kind of stuck in her life and dealing with all of that. And obviously Jump was a book born out of my own struggle and pain, physical pain, but also the pain of rejection with my previous novels, which I tried to, have traditionally published. And I was at a point in my writing journey where I was scared to keep writing because I didn't want to keep experiencing rejection. And I think I wrote Jump for other people, but mostly for myself, that I needed to face my fears and overcome them. And, the message of Jump is that life hurts, pain happens, but we get to decide what to do with that hardship. We can let it cripple us, or we can keep pursuing our dreams and make that jump of faith.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely love that. Well said there, for sure. And yes, I'm very familiar with how rejection feels. It is horrible, isn't it? And you can dwell on it and really self-bash. And I think each rejection I get, I am slowly moving on quicker and taking it less. And I also put my own work out. I have to do that, else I just don't know. But it is, it's very hard. So your books prior, are they sort of set similar, with horse themes and facing fears? Like they're quite similar, the ones that you've had rejections on before, or no?
So I started out writing, most of my novels that I've written before are kind of I call them sci-fi light. They're not heavy science fiction, they're light science fiction. But this book, Jump, is the first that I've written in the horse world. And I think that, I got to a point where I decided to go back to that old, that Adam, write what you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and I know, right. I know the show jumping world, the horse world, better than I know pretty much anything else. And so I really came back to that, to write what you know. And this book flowed out of me like nothing else had. And
wow.
Honestly, I think this was the book, this was the story that I was meant to write.
Yeah, sounds like it for sure. So I take it with your chronic pain illness, you haven't been able to ride again. You just can't.
No, I haven't ridden. I mean, I've been on horses, occasionally for fun, but not on a
not the
level.
Yeah, the level that
right.
you were at.
Yeah.
So do you feel you're almost living vicariously through your characters, and you can actually inject the emotions that you went through into them with everything? I think that's really great, and it brings a lot to the table, and it'll really resonate with a lot of people, I think, facing that. So yeah. So obviously you mentioned you've had some rejections which are hard and not great, and you've pushed past, faced your fear really, and put yourself out there to release Jump, which is how's it all been? Is it all going well so far?
Yeah, it's been really wonderful. And, it's been great. I feel like I've had a lot of support from family, friends, the community. And it's surprising almost, because I've been writing for a long, long time, and people have kind of been like, oh, when is your book coming out? When is your book coming out? What's up? And, non-writers don't always understand how long the process is. And so to finally have something out there and say, actually, yes, it's out, it's been really fun, because all of these people from all these different areas of my life have been incredibly supportive, and I'm so grateful for that. And then to finally have that experience where a completely random person picks up my book and falls in love with it and messages me, wow, this resonated with me. Wow, this, I love this character, or I screamed when she did this, or,
Yeah.
That's such a surreal experience as a writer. And I haven't had that. I've been writing for 10 years without having had that experience. And there's just something to be said for having a reader connect with your book, and getting to be a part of that is just really, really wonderful.
Yeah, that's amazing. So obviously you had some books before, and tried the traditional route, but you decided with this one, you're good to hell with it. You're going to put it out yourself, and you haven't sort of looked back. Did you even think about going down the traditional path with this one, or you were just like, nah, it's time, going to try something different?
No, I didn't. With this book, it felt from the very beginning like this is my book, and I felt so confident in it, even with all the past rejections. It was kind of a strange piece that I had with this book, that I can do this, and I don't need someone else behind me saying, oh yeah, this book is good. Like, it's enough for me to say, this is good enough. And this book will find its ideal reader without, a traditional publisher behind me. And so I didn't go through the querying process. I didn't do any of that. I hired, professional editor, and, worked with a bunch of beta readers and did that due process. But this was really from the very beginning me saying, I'm going to take a chance on myself.
Oh, good on you. I absolutely love that. That's great. Obviously, it's a first in series. Do you have a plan set out for many more to come? Is the second one in the work? How many do you foresee in the series?
Yeah, so I have a prequel out, actually. It's a novella. So that one is called Off Course. And I am currently writing book 2, which I have out there in the Ethernet. I have a few sample chapters for people to download and read, but that is what I'm plugging away on. And I have a third book planned, outlined. So yeah, that's the plan.
It sounds amazing. So you've told us, what fears your protagonist faces in the book. Has there been any fears you've faced in taking the plunge and putting yourself out there as an author? And even, I guess, in writing this work, was there anything that you came up against?
Yeah, absolutely. I just finished reading your book, Author Fears
Yeah.
and How to Overcome Them.
Yeah, that's all my fears that I've swam through. It's horrible.
Well, it really resonated with me. I'm pretty confident I've dealt with almost all of the fears that you mentioned in the book. I will say the only one I can't say that I have experienced is the fear of becoming overly successful. I can't say I've been afraid of that.
Have you heard of is it Colleen Hoover? Have you heard of her?
Yeah,
so she's obviously gone viral with TikTok and
right.
to that level of success, because she just said, I didn't want that much fame, so I think
right.
that's what that touches on. And for me, as an author, I don't particularly want to be well known, like my face or anything. I just want people like yourself to read my books, to connect with people, for them to enjoy it, for it to mean something. But me personally, I'd rather keep out of it.
right yeah, and not have every random person commenting on what you should or shouldn't be writing about. I do think that I get that for sure. But I think the main fear for me is feeling like a fraud, that, especially after pursuing traditional publishing for so long and, getting all of these rejections, I was worried, is there a seat at the table for me? Is my work good enough, to be read, to be loved? And, I think I was just worried about, feeling like I don't belong here in the publishing community. And of course, I think every writer on some level fears that their book won't find their ideal reader, that there maybe is no ideal reader out there for my book, someone who will fall in love with the story, the characters, definitely have had that fear that, people will read my book and laugh or think it's a joke or something like that. And I really appreciated what you said in your book, that your book is not for everyone and you don't need to justify your work to anyone. And that's such a good reminder for me, because ultimately at the end of the day, I have to feel at peace about what I'm writing, regardless of what other people, think or feel about my work. In a way, I'm the ideal reader of my own book, right? And if I'm not happy with what I'm creating, then what's the point?
Yeah, I do believe that for sure. Like when you're working on something, and I think you have to enjoy it yourself. And a lot of people say, think of the readership, and you can, I guess, in some terms, like I try and traditionally publish with children's fiction. So obviously if writing for children, when it comes to language and obviously themes, you've got to think that way. But if you're not enjoying the story, I just don't think, or, other people probably will. If you're like, oh, this is boring, then maybe they'll be
right.
for it. Yeah. Oh, well, we're kindred spirits then. We absolutely feel the same way. And it does. I had this conversation with someone today, actually. It feels like you do need validation from someone. And where does that come from? I didn't finish high school, although I've been to uni and got a degree, but somehow because of that, things arose where it was like, who the hell are you to have written a book? Like, just so many, but slowly getting there. But I think with traditional publishing as well, like a friend of mine who was doing picture books, she actually posted on a group that we're part of, which is, I don't know if you've heard of Squibby before, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. And she had put out saying, I have tried everything. I have done everything. I have put it out there. I don't understand why my book's not getting taken. And then someone had just said, it's not you. It's like they're not actually taking picture books at this point due to rah. So I think it does us all well to remember that sometimes it's not our work and it's not ourself. There's lots of other things that come at play, whether it's someone's list or it's just not for them right now. It's not necessarily that your work's not good enough to be out there and enjoyed for other people. But I love that we have so many options to take the reins ourselves and just get it out there. Life is absolutely too short. So if you do it properly, of course, and your book is just fabulous and very professional, and it just looks incredible. I bet, has it been well received through through the equestrian channels? And
yeah, that's been really wonderful. I just had a horse blogger reach out to me and, send me this long message that brought tears to my eyes. Like, this was the person that this book was meant to reach, to be able to have someone reach out and just say, wow, this really resonated with me and felt so authentic. Because I think that's a little bit difficult with books about horses, is sometimes the people writing them don't actually know that much about horses.
Yeah.
And so as a horse person, you want to read these books. You're excited to, a horse book, and then you're reading and you realize they don't actually know what they're talking about. And so I think as a horse person, it's refreshing when you come across an authentic experience, of, okay, this person actually has been on a horse and knows what it's like.
Yeah, I can't say I've read many, to be fair, but I'm a massive, massive fan of Heartland on Netflix.
Yes,
I love that. And she is actually an equestrian in real life, the Amy Fleming character,
Right.
and her character's quite largely based on her, I think. So yeah, I'm sure it's not all life is like that, I guess, but she's like the horse whisperer. I just love the series, and I'm up to like season 12, and I thought it must be nearly finished. I've been watching it for years, and then I looked and it was like, and they're still making it, I think, in Canada. Yeah, they're on like season 16, so I thought, oh, I have to keep going. Yeah,
keep going.
Oh, I know, goodness me. So obviously you have a wealth of experience from putting yourself out there, sorry. What would your advice be to authors who are trying to do the same? They're maybe trying to go down the traditional path and hitting brick walls, or considering putting themselves out there, independently self-publishing themselves. And yeah, like you said, feeling like a fraud. Self-doubt, I think, is so common, to the fact that I feel when something comes up and I start doubting, it's just a part of the process now. I feel I'm like, oh yeah, that's all a part of it now. It's difficult. What would you tell writers and authors, I guess aspiring ones, to put themselves out there, to face their fears? Do you have any tips?
Yeah, I do. And I think, one thing that was helpful for me is I took baby steps with putting myself out there, because I was not ready to self-publish. A few years ago, I was saying, I'll never self-publish. I'll never do that. And I think that I needed to practice putting myself out there in different ways. Honestly, it started with just being willing to read my work to my husband, which sounds almost too simple, but I was even afraid to do that. And the first time I read my very first novel to my husband, just the opening chapter, I was literally shaking. I was so nervous. And this is the person who loves me the most in the world, but I needed that first step in order to be ready for the next one.
And what did they say? Was it like,
he loved it. He was very supportive, and I'm very grateful. I have a really supportive family, and we've done one thing that has helped me is we've done family reading nights where we've gathered with the grown-ups once the kids go down and do readings of whatever I'm working on. And that was really honestly a key piece for me, because I was just too scared to put my work out there. But practicing, literally saying it out loud to a safe place helped me to have the confidence to put it out there and, on a more public scale. And I also started a blog when I first had kids, and writing a novel just seemed honestly insurmountable at the time with, little ones. But I wanted to keep writing, and it was a really good practice for me to write something, publish it, like it's out in the world. Random people are reading it. And that was good for me to practice, because honestly, putting yourself out there, it feels a little bit like a muscle you have to develop. So if you don't practice putting yourself out there, then it's hard to grow that muscle.
Yeah.
And I needed to grow that muscle before I was ready to put a whole book out there into the world.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm glad that you sort of touched on that. I always think that your experience is sort of preparing you for something, I guess. And even though writing's so personal, because like you said, you're so connected to the book, and it sounds like it's finding its right readership anyway, but there might still be people who have got not, it wasn't for them, or they've got something to say, but maybe dealing with the rejections prior to that, then you've got a thicker skin. You can kind of deal with that. So no, that's Absolutely. Good you said it. And I love that you read with your family. I think that's great. I feel like I'd be even more nervous to read to my family than anyone else, I guess. And my husband, he rips my work to shreds, so I don't even go to him. It's like a bag of tea, and I'm like, what do you know? You're not a writer. I know. That's great.
Yeah, my mother-in-law, she articulated it in a way that made sense to me, that resonated with me. She was just saying that having your work read by other people is a little bit like hanging out there naked, and people are just poking at you and prodding at you, and it's very vulnerable to put your work out there and let people read it. And I think the more you do it, the thicker your skin can get, because someone somewhere is going to say, well, I don't like that part, or this isn't for me, or can't believe she wrote that. And you have to live with it, and not just live with it, but keep writing despite that criticism.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really well said there. So it sounds, you said the book just sort of flew out of you. Was the publishing process quite long as well? Quite quick. How was the whole process altogether?
So I started writing the book in October of last year, and I, did some discovery writing, figuring out, can I write this? And again, it just really flowed out of me. And my husband and I decided, okay, let me take a weekend away and just get as much of this out as possible. And I wrote an entire first draft in that weekend, just sitting. We live by the beach. I went to the beach, just sitting at the beach, just writing. And, so that was in November. Sent it out to beta readers, got feedback, edited it, then sent it to an editor, and went back and forth with her, and eventually published it March 7th. It came out. So it was, I think that's relatively quick for a novel. I will say there were a lot of things to learn about self-publishing. And I was listening to one of your podcasts when you were talking about your first book, getting the cover, or getting, the proof, and it being a mess. I had that exact same experience, freaking out. Like, I thought I was going to have this joyous experience of opening my first box of books, and they were just a mess, and I had to do it all over again.
Oh no! Oh, at least
you learn, right?
Yeah, live and learn. I know that's. I do remember. Honestly, I've got my freelance writing book. I've got about 9 different sizes and copies and all sorts of stuff. And I remember there's a video of me opening the package to see it, and then I'm like, my face just kind of screws up, and I'm like, it's squint. Like the setting was all squint. And I thought, oh my god.
Oh no.
So. Yeah, but it's good that we can have these conversations, and you can connect, and it's not just yourself that's fucking up the book formatting.
Right.
But or feeling all these things, especially like a fraud, an imposter syndrome. I felt that way leaving university. I really, I'd just done all this degree, and then it was a case of, but then I went back to applying for jobs that I used to have, like in administration or something, because it was just what I knew. Like it's a mindset, I suppose. Right. It's absolutely a mindset, isn't it? Well, you've told us, there's a few books to come in the series, but what else do we hold in store for Tiffany Noelle Chacone?
So I will, have book 2 coming out soon. That one is called Fall, and it follows my main character from Jump even more, but it also follows her sister, her paralyzed sister, Anya. There's lots of emotion, lots of love, lots of horses. And in general, what you'll find from me is books that involve highly emotive main characters, girls with lots of feelings, because that's what I am, and highly relational books, lots of very real, very raw conflict that eventually gets resolved in a positive way, because I love a good happily ever after. And yeah, excited for books to come.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And do you think that you'll go back to the sci-fi? Will you do anything with the past manuscripts, do you think?
Yes, I think I will. My husband and I co-wrote a book last year.
Wow.
And that is one that is very near and dear to my heart. My husband and I, we met in middle school. We fell in love, had the young love experience. And so I love writing about that. And it brings me back to those years, and getting to write a novel with my husband was just such an amazing experience. And we had so much fun doing it. And yeah, we will definitely, that book is going to the editor. We're refining it, and it will find its way to readers some way, somehow. It needs to be out there.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. So how did you do that? Did you write it sitting together, or you wrote a piece and he had an input, or how did you do that together?
Yeah, so the book is told from dual perspectives. So we go back and forth between the girl main character and the guy main character. And so I wrote all of the girl main character pieces, and he wrote a lot of the guy perspective. But a lot of the books we actually sat in we sat in his office and just, okay, what do we see in the scene? What's going on? Just typing it out. I'm the faster typer. So, I'm sitting there like adding, sensory things. And we had so much fun. One of the scenes, my husband likes to play poker for fun. And, we decided, let's add a poker scene. It's a post-apocalyptic scenario, the book that we wrote. And so we're like, maybe our guy main character needs to play in a poker game to get gas, so he can keep working his way across the country to get to his love interest. And that was so fun, getting to combine his expertise, what he knows, with my writing ability, to be able to bring those two things together was just really fun.
Oh, it sounds amazing. So it's not your middle school romance that you're writing about, is it? Is it an adult novel?
It's a young adult novel. Yeah, the main characters are 17. But we did pull some stuff from our, love story. Our characters meet at camp, which is where we fell in love with summer camp. So that, there were some autobiographical pieces in there,
Oh, I love that. I think that would even be a great story to tell as well, like that you fell in love at camp. That's so great. I actually did a summer in Otis, Massachusetts at an all-girls Girl Scout camp as a leader.
Wow, yeah.
It was like the best thing I've ever done. It was so fun. It was just amazing. So yeah, I love the camps over there. They're fantastic. So yeah, it sounds like you've got a growing list of books to get through, and you're pulling all the family in, which is amazing. It'll be your two boys next.
Right. Yeah.
But please tell us, where can our listeners find all of your work and your website and everything online or in stores?
Yes. So you can always find me on my website, which is tiffanynoellechacone.com, as well as on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. My handle on all of those platforms is at Tiffany Noelle Chacone. And of course, my books are available on Amazon and other online retailers like Booktopia. And I just saw that the audiobook for Jump was released. So that is available on iTunes.
That is amazing. The audiobook, are you narrating it or is it someone else?
No.
Didn't
We
fancy
had
that.
a professional narrator do it, and she did a fantastic job. I'm so excited for people to listen to the audiobook.
Awesome. Yeah, well, we'll definitely check it out. Thank you so much for your time, Tiffany. It's been absolutely amazing.
You.
And I know that all our listeners will feel confident they can rush out and achieve their author dreams now and face their fears and also go and buy your book.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, folks, the truly exceptional sharings of Tiffany Noelle Chacone, and I hope some of what we talked about helps you face your fears and move forward in your author adventure. Go out and get Tiffany's book. It looks absolutely incredible. It's a great read, and she's just such a lovely soul. Next time on the Hybrid Author Podcast, we have editorial mentor and photographer Jess Gately, and she's going to be chatting on all things editing for authors, self-editing, her definitions of structural editing, and so much more. It's a fantastic chat, so I'll catch up with you next week. I wish you well in your author adventure. That's it from me. Bye for now. That's the end for now, authors. I hope you're further forward in your author adventure after listening, and I hope you'll listen next time. Remember to head on over to the Hybrid Author website at www.hybridauthor.com.au to get your free author pass. It's bye for now.